beady friends. Look at the fabulous necklace that I have here today for us to work on. This is my Totally Teardrops necklace. I designed this necklace specifically for Soft Flex. Soft Flex is my preferred brand of beading wire. So when you're stringing projects, whether it's a bracelet or necklace or even earrings, Soft Flex is my favorite beading wire brand. And this year they asked me to participate in their annual customer appreciation event. They put it on once a year. It's so cool. It's like a really cool thing for a company to do for their customer base. They bring in all sorts of different beading instructors, and there's a solid week of us beading instructors giving classes. So I think it's like either 2 or 3 times a day. They've got this for a solid week. I'm just really very appreciative to be asked to be included with that. This project, believe it or not, this is actually a variation of a project that I taught almost 20 years ago. I'm going to say it was probably about 18 or 19 years ago. The original project was a bracelet, and I always thought the large scale of this center section would work so well for a necklace, and so this was a perfect way to combine an old project, turn it into something new, and use the fabulous product at Soft Flex. So I'm going to bring you in here to the board, and I'm going to show you a bunch of different color variations, some size variations, and how it looks as a bracelet. Okay. So this is a color array. I made a bunch of different colorways for the kits for this customer appreciation event. So these are all variations of some of those kit colorways. And these obviously have not been turned into necklaces yet. They're ready to be turned into necklaces. This one I actually turned into a bracelet. So instead of attaching 2 rings on each end that are then going to be turned into the necklace, I finished everything off exactly the same way, but I used a clasp instead. And so this makes a very bold but fabulous bracelet. And if you look at this, let me use this one because you'll see it better on camera. These are all teardrop shaped beads. And we're going to be using Soft Flex beading wire to actually weave these together. So it's kind of a combo between stringing and bead weaving, and it creates this beautiful 3-dimensional shape in your project. So all of the ones on this side of my bracelet, this side of my board, these were all using 6x9mm teardrops. I wanted something bold so that, it really show up on the necklace here. And so I used the 6x9 size. This sample, I actually used a 5x7mm drop bead. So for some of you, that might be a better bracelet size for you. You can also make it even daintier by doing it with a 4x6mm drop bead. So this is one of those projects that once you've made it once and you realize how simple it is, you're going to want to do it a million different times. And you can do it all with a single color. This one is just so fun with all the different colors in here. There are 4 different colors of teardrops in this baby. The only thing that I had difficulty with on this particular project is I find random very difficult, and so picking it up in random order challenged me, but that's not always a bad thing, right? Okay, so this is our basic plan, is we're going to weave this center section by itself. And then once we have this woven together, we then are going to turn it into a necklace here at the back with more Soft Flex wire. We're actually going to be using 2 different diameters for this. I'm using the 0.014 or the fine diameter for our weaving. You need to use that smaller diameter because we're going to be going through these holes in the teardrops multiple times, and it's a little challenging if you're using the 0.019. But here on the back of the necklace, I wanted to go ahead and use the 0.019. It's a nice strong necklace weight, and it also comes in more colors in the 0.019, and I really wanted the color of the back part of this necklace to complement the color on the front. So that's why I switched there. All right, let me move these out of the way for the moment. And here is an array of what we need for this project. All right, let me kind of go over this real quick. If you've got the kit, all of this is in your kit and it's all got labels on everything. Obviously, you're going to need the teardrops. So here I've got an assortment of teardrops. We're going to make a Barbie bracelet / necklace today. You're going to need 6 crimps. You're going to need a clasp, whether that's for the necklace or for the bracelet, your choice. If you're going to make the necklace, you're going to want 2 of the hammered, these are Tiara cast hammered rings. So I picked a clasp where it complemented with the hammered rings. I've got 4 4mm bicones and 4 6mm bicones here. I've also got crimp covers that you may or may not use them. It's going to depend on what tool you use to crimp your crimps, and we'll talk about that as we get farther on, but they are included in the kit. And then here are my 2 different sizes of soft flex beading wire. The 0.019, in this case I'm doing black accents. There's our black bicones and a black beading wire for the back. The beading wire for the front that we're weaving together, the 0.014, this is just their original satin silver color, and it is all covered by the beads, so there's really not any reason to go crazy with color on that particular part of the project. Okay, so I'm going to start out with this 0.014, and I have put 3 feet in the kits. That is a generous amount, but this is a project where you cannot add more beading wire later. So I don't like to underestimate how much I'm going to need. So I make sure that I've got plenty, and so 3 feet's what's in your kit. Once you've made one, you can always measure how much you had left over at the end, and you might be able to cut your next length when you make your next necklace or bracelet. You can cut that length shorter. So if you pay attention to how much you think you can cut it shorter, then that's awesome. So we're going to start out by bringing this through, and I'm going to make the necklace version. I'm going to bring this through one of the rings, and I'm going to center that on the wire. If I were making the bracelet, then I would be centering this on 1/2 of the clasp instead. Then I'm going to take one of my crimps, and I'm going to bring that over both pieces of wire. This is not a necessary crimp, but if we put this crimp here, then it is going to match the other side and be symmetrical. And let me grab the necklace so you can see what I'm talking about. So here on this side and this side, the 2 pieces will be symmetrical. You're going to have that crimp on both ends. All right. Then we're going to go ahead and crimp this down. Now here's what I was talking about with these crimp covers. There are multiple ways to crimp. You can use the crimping pliers. This is a well-known way to crimp it. You create the little divot, you fold it in half, and so then you've got kind of a 1/2 of a crimp right there, and you could always cover that with a crimp cover. The really, really old-fashioned way is actually just to smash it flat with a pair of flat nose pliers. The third way is to use a magical crimping tool, and those of you who follow Softflex know that Kirsten and Sarah love their magical crimping pliers, and they have turned me into a beloved, I love my magical crimping pliers now too. So the only thing is that right this second, I personally, they come in 2 different sizes. This size works for the thicker, the 0.019 beading wire, and I don't have the crimping pliers. They're on the way to me. I don't have it that works with the .014. So personally, right this second, I'm going to go old school with the old-fashioned crimping plier. And we will use a crimp cover to cover it up, because why not? So when you're crimping this, you are putting that crimp, it is a 2 by 2 millimeter crimp, and I'm covering it in, I don't want that loop to be that big, there we go. Making sure that the loop above it is not crazy, but still allows movement. And I am just smashing it down in the second hole. Then that's gonna be what creates that little divot right there. And so now I'm going to turn it at a 90-degree angle. I'm going to use the front end of my crimping plier, and I'm going to fold that over. So now we have that beautiful folded crimp. I'm not going to worry about the crimp cover until later, because we just don't need to worry about it right now. All right, so let's show you. We're going to lead into the part with the weaving. So the first things that we're going to string on here is going to be a 4 millimeter, because what we're stringing is going to look like this right now. So 4 millimeter bicone and then a 6 millimeter bicone. And you're putting this over both of the beading wires. And then the 6 millimeter. So it creates that nice little taper. And then we get to start playing around with the teardrops. So let me kind of move those off to the side for a second. I'll move this over, give myself a little room to work here. What we are doing is right angle weave, which can sound scary if you know anything about bead weaving, but because we're using the equivalent of 2 needles, we're going to use these ends as if they were needles. So it's not going to be that big of a deal as we're going through these. We're using two ends, which makes this very simple. On one side, and it doesn't matter which one, you're going to string on 3 of the teardrops. And bring them on down. On the other side, you're going to string 2 teardrops. The side with the 3 teardrops, we are going to actually make this third teardrop sit in the center here. So the one that we put only 2 on, we're going to take the end of that wire, and then from the bottom back up towards the top, we're going to pass through the hole of this last teardrop that we added. Okay? And then as we pull, what's going to happen, tighten, tighten, and look. Now this teardrop is here in the center. These 2 guys are off to the side. And see how nicely that bicone nestles in there at the beginning? Now usually one set of these 2 guys will pop up, and the next one you'll have lay sitting downward. That's how this all turns into a 3-dimensional object. So you want 2 of them across from each other to be up, 2 of them to be down, and then the other thing is this one in the center. Go ahead and take your finger and poke it up, because we want that to stay up as we add each unit as we go along. So now we're just going to repeat that over and over again. So I am pitting 3 on one side, so I usually start with the 3 and then I put 2 on the other side, because I know that this is the side that I'm going to have in my hands to pass through that third one in the opposite direction. So now I've put those 2 on, I'm immediately ready because I've got this in my hand, and I can pass through this third teardrop from the bottom back up. And when you're tightening that, you want to kind of make sure that you're out of the way. Here's what you want to look for. You do not want this center teardrop to be sitting downward. Because if you do, now all of a sudden it disappeared, right? Well, it's on the other side. So I like to have all of my center teardrops pointing up. And then this is a spot where you can see where I had the two back teardrops I had up, the next two teardrops I had down, then I want the next two up, and then I want the next two down. There we go. So you're still loose enough here that you can do some adjusting and make them sit exactly the way you want to. The other thing I do is I take a good tug on this at the end of all of that to try to tighten it up to get it ready for the next round. One last thing that I do as I'm working on this is I try to remember to alternate which side I put 3 beads on and which side I put 2 beads on. The only reason is because depending on your tension, it's possible that you could get a bit of a twist if you put all the 3s, say, on your right hand. You could get a bit of a twist in your piece. It's not a big deal, but, and I also don't beat myself up if I've forgotten to do one, to switch sides on one of them. 1 or 2 units is not going to be enough to change the outcome of the entire piece, but it's just something to keep in mind as you're going along. Periodically switch it up. All right. And then we are just repeating this over and over and over again until we get the length that we need. And it's very satisfying because it works up very quickly. So I'm double checking that the 2 back ones are up, the 2 front ones are down, and then I'm poking that center one up. So we will do several more units here. And I'm not going to do all of these, but I will do more. We're going to make ourselves a little Barbie necklace. You can definitely adjust how much of the teardrop portion you want for your necklace. Like if you weren't able to find quite as many teardrops in the particular color that you wanted, well, you could just make this a little shorter and you're filling out the rest of the necklace with soft flex beading wire. So it's no big deal. Look, I love it when they pop into place just perfectly, just the way I want them to. All right. Again, I'm trying to be random when I'm picking up because this is a color assortment. It's a really beautiful assorted color bit. And I'm trying to be random as I pick them up. But it's hard. These pieces are also very nice because you can make them very quickly. In the bead weaving world, this is about as instant gratification as you get. So you can see one of them popped up on one side but not the other, so I am just going to maneuver it. There we go. So now it's nice and popped up. Going to get that center one centered. And now that you've got the rhythm of this, I'm going to do a little speedy beading. Okay, this is as far as I'm going to go on this because we're going to make ourselves a very small version. No reason for you to sit here and watch me do the same thing over and over again because I want to bring it together and show you how we're going to end it off on the other side so that it's going to match the first side. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to just put 2 of the teardrops on either side. No need to do a third one. 1, 2. 1, 2. Then we're going to bring this together with that tapering with the bicones. So this time we're coming out of the teardrops, and so the first thing that we come to is the 6mm bicone, the bigger one, and we're going to string that over both strands. And then we're going to do the 4mm bicone over both strands. All right. Now this is going to get all crazy wonky here. Like, we can go ahead and tighten this up right now and it looks perfect. So as I tightened it, you can see where I just worried about the two at the back coming up, the two at the front coming down, and instead of the center teardrop, we've got those bicones right there. But realistically, as we are attaching this to the other ring here with our crimp, this is going to get loosened up quite a bit. So we're not going to worry too much that this is going to come undone a little bit on this end until we get to the very end. And at that point, we can tighten everything up again. So your next step is going to be to take a crimp and string it over both ends and bring that down. And then you're taking both ends, I'm sorry, nope, you're taking one end up through the ring and bringing that down. So here's where it's going to kind of loosen up a little bit on us, because we want to take that one end that you've hooked through that second ring. We're going to bring it back through the crimp, through both bicones if you can. And so you might even intentionally loosen it up a little bit so that you can get the angle to get that wire through there, poke it through, and there it is coming through. So we can tighten that up. You can do some tightening on this end by pulling the other end that I did not loop through the ring. You can pull these in opposite directions. We're going to have to do some finagling here as we tighten all this up. So we're making sure that now is when we're going to make sure that the two back ones are up, the two forward ones are down. Hey, you guys. I'm trying to demo here. You need to behave. Come on. There we go. And we can cinch that up a little bit. We'll also be able to manipulate that even after it is crimped. So just FYI. There we go. And that right there is the hardest part of the entire necklace, is getting that end up and ready. So right now I've got it tightened really hard on the ring so that the ring doesn't have a lot of flexibility. So I'm just going to pinch that crimp, kind of put my fingernail right on the edge of it so that I can wiggle that out just a little bit. So now that's got enough for it to move around. And now I'm going to go ahead and crimp that off with my crimping plier. So I'm using that back hole and squeezing down, turning it at a 90-degree angle and bending that in half, like so. Beautiful. And then I'm going to come in here with a nice fine cutter to cut the excess off on both sides. When you're cutting this top part off, it's very near where that loop is on the ring. So you want to make sure that you've got a good eye on it so you're not accidentally cutting the wrong wire right there. So you can see I did end up with a lot of extra wire here, but of course I also did not make a full-size piece. All right, so here's our little Barbie, the start of our Barbie necklace. Or if we had used a clasp instead of the two gold rings, this could be a Barbie bracelet right now. Instead, we're going to turn it into a necklace. So once you get this part done, come on back and we'll talk about how to assemble the entire necklace. So do you have all your teardrops woven together? Do you feel so good? It's so satisfying. I really love making this. You can see, I had a really good time. I actually made all of the samples, all the different colorways that I showed you guys earlier. All of these. Dropping them. I made all of those samples in on one Saturday. I just did it all day long. Had a blast. Okay. But let's talk about how we're going to assemble our necklace. So come on back down to my board. So now we are going to use the colored soft flex wire, the 0.019 medium weight on this. And what we're going to do is, what's in your kit, if you got the kit, is going to be a long piece. It's again, it's 3 feet, which I just wanted you to have enough that if you wanted to wear this as a long necklace, you were prepared, you had what you needed. So we're actually going to cut this in half. So go ahead and bend it over and then cut it in half, because you're going to attach 1/2 on one side of the necklace and 1/2 on the other side. All right, but for right this second, I'm going to put it off to the side. On this side, we're going to go ahead and string one end through the ring, the gold ring. We're going to, let's see, how am I doing this? Wait a minute. Let me think. Did I do this as one strand? Yes, I did. Okay, I did do this the way I thought I did. We're going to string the crimp over both ends. But we're actually going to just leave one end very short, and we're going to hide it underneath the bicones. Just adjust. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and crimp that down. Now, because I'm using the 0.019 right now weight, I can use the magical crimping pliers, and that's what I'm going to do on this particular part. And so using the magical crimping pliers, you're just going to crimp down on it. I was so worried about these magical crimping pliers for a long time because mine never turned out round the way it's supposed to happen. And I finally realized my mistake. And my mistake was that I was letting too much of the crimp be up above the plier. So it would never get round because it wasn't crimping the entire crimp. Now I take a look on both sides, make sure that the entire crimp is covered by the crimping plier. And now I can squish it down. And there's my little ravioli with kind of the 4 corners that you get. And then you turn it at the 90-degree angle. Same thing, I'm making sure it's completely enclosed inside the pliers. I squeeze it again, and there is my perfectly round bead that it turns it into. I just think that that is so cool. It's magic. I guess that's why they call it the magical crimping plier. Then I'm going to go ahead and string. Let's see, we're going to string the large bicone first and bring it down so that it's going to cover part of this tail. It gets a little tight in there, and so one way that if you're having trouble getting it through, if you twirl the bead as you're kind of pushing down on it, that helps quite a bit. And then we're going to do the same thing here with the 4 mil. So we're putting it on the long one first. Then we're going to bring that other end in and get both of those through the bicone. And it's really not wanting to play nice. And you know what? That's okay, because we can actually cut this. The tail will be hidden by the 6 millimeter bicone, so I can go ahead and cut that tail right there instead. Would have been better if I'd used an actual cutter, wire cutter, instead of my little scissors. I would have gotten a cleaner cut. So don't do what I just did. Use an actual cutter, because I got kind of a bad cut there. But yours will sit perfectly flush there. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So this time I'm going to be a little bit smarter about this whole crimp situation. I'm putting the crimp on, stringing through here. Leaving myself just a little bit of a tail here. Taking the longer end and coming through. That worked a lot better. you can teach an old dog new tricks. And I'm even going to bring it down even a little bit more. All right. Then I am going to use that magical crimping plier again. Crimp down. There's my ravioli. Turn it at a 90-degree angle. Do it again. If you need to, you can keep going around in a circle so it's until it gets nice and round. And then we're going to do that bicone again. So the 6mm will go over the 2 strands. Like I said, if you need to, you can do a little bit of a twirl to get it going. There we go, I feel it. Bring that on down. I'm not even going to try to get it over the other one. And since I don't have a wire cutter right in my hand sight, I'm going to have to use this guy again. Got a better cut that time. And then the 4mm bicone. All right, so we're almost there. We just have a little bit more crimping to do. And the other thing that we're going to do is adjust for the length of the necklace that we want. So in this case, because this is going to be a Barbie necklace, I'm actually going to cut a bunch of this length off because it's just in our way right now. I'm using full-size materials for a Barbie necklace. Okay, here we're just going to put the crimp on, run through 1/2 of our clasp, bring that beading wire back through the crimp, okay, and cinch it on up. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I have not crimping it down yet. Like so. And at this point, I suggest, first of all, I can see right off the bat that they're not even length, so we can adjust for that. Loosen this up, pull it down, retighten. So you can play with that before you crimp, but you also want to take it to the bathroom, try it on, look at it in the mirror, make sure that you're getting the length that you want. Make it sure that it's sitting where you want it to, because once you crimp it, to fix a length issue, then you have to completely redo it again. So I strongly suggest, see, I cut them off unevenly. There we go. So now we're even. Trying it on first, because it's not going to fall apart if you try it on right here. And that way you can make those minute adjustments before you crimp it down. So I highly suggest that. In this case, we're going to assume that all is well. And I'm going to go ahead and use my magical crimpers up here at the top. If you don't have the magical crimpers, it's not a problem. Use your crimping pliers, and you can always just use the crimp cover to cover the crimp if you like. All right. I have that all taken care of. Cut off the tail. We'll do that on this side also. Oop, there's the pliers. Squeeze, 90-degree angle, squeeze again. And cut the end off, and boom, just like that. Look, we have a beautiful, in this case, Barbie, necklace. I just can't get a hold of the clasp. There we go. Voila! How quick and easy was that? It is so cute. So cute. And so you can see actually that the necklace looks adorable, small scale also. I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't just wear it like that. Voila. I'm looking at myself in a monitor and it's difficult to get it even when it's reverse image. But yeah, it doesn't need to be any wider than that. In this particular case, I'll put this one on and you can see that this one is quite a bit wider. And I wanted it to sit right above where I have most of my necklines. This neckline is a little higher than what I usually wear, and so you can see how cute that is there. So that is all there is to it. And then the only last thing is, if you wanted to attach the crimp cover over the crimps that you use the regular crimping tool with, then you can just close those in. A lot of people will use the front opening of their crimping plier to go ahead and get that closed. And that way it won't cause a dent in the crimp cover, is what I'm trying to say. Man, it has been a day. I'm kind of tired and I'm having trouble finding my words. But I hope that you really enjoy making your Totally Teardrops necklace or bracelet or both. And I have so much other content for you. So make sure that you are subscribed to my channel. Go ahead, hit the button. I'll wait. And that way you won't miss a thing. I will see you next time. Happy beading.